I'm still a lawyer. I'm still like doing the same thing, but I needed like an environmental change, a mindset change. I just needed to do it differently. I kind of had a pep talk with myself. This is your one life. You're competent, you're smart. And like told myself that night that I would start my own firm. And we can't just work and not take care of ourselves. Or as we find, people crash and burn. And I don't want to live like that. I don't want anybody that works with me to live like that.
Welcome, everyone, to a special Practically on Purpose and Ahmi Health Substack Live. Practically on Purpose is a blog and podcast for high achievers who are looking to build deeper meaning and purpose in their lives. I'm your host, Allie Canton, and today we're joined by Rachel Johnson. Rachel is a mom of three and founder of two companies, JNO Law, a boutique firm for high growth startups and VC funds, and Ah.mi Health, which is a wellness community that's giving women modern tools and content to inspire healthy habits without the overwhelm. What began as a group text blossomed into a community of over 2,000 members. They get biweekly newsletters, expert-led small groups, and simple wellness mantras. You can learn more at ahmihealth.com. Rachel also has the distinction of being one of my first Substack friends. When we met, we discovered each other's writings and paths as lawyers and mothers and people who are really trying to bring together purpose, wellness, feeling good in our lives. And I promise that this isn't sponsored by Substack yet, but I am so grateful for the community that I found on this platform. It really is such a fresh breath of fresh air. And Rachel, you are a huge part of that for me.
Well, I loved meeting you. I think I read your first Substack. I found it on LinkedIn. You posted it. All about practicing law and practicing peace. And I think I texted it to probably over a dozen people. I just thought it was so good. And then I found out you were in house at Flatiron Health, where I also had friends. So it was a very full circle.
So let's just jump right into it, Rachel. Growing up, what were some of the ideas that you had around success that you'd internalized or that you were expressly taught?
Yeah, I think growing up, I grew up in a pretty affluent neighborhood in South Miami. It's called Pinecrest. I did go to all public schools growing up, and my parents always worked. My mom was a state attorney, and my dad was an attorney as well.
So you had one choice.
But there were five kids. I was the only one out of five to go in the lawyer route. But my parents very rarely spoke about money, except to the extent that I knew we like weren't going to private school. We didn't do like the sleepaway summer camp thing. Um, we went on family vacations, and that was a big thing. But I was definitely around people that had extra money to spend. And I think, especially with five kids, just it wasn't a free for all. Like everything, I remember when I turned 15, I don't know if anybody knows Kumon tutoring centers.
We had those in New Jersey too.
Okay.
Yep.
On tutor as soon as I could work. I couldn't even drive yet. I was 15. So I remember my brother would like drop me off. His girlfriend had worked there at the time, so I just like would bum a ride with her. But I always wanted my own money because I never wanted to put pressure on my parents and ask them for things like a prom dress. And growing up in the neighborhood I grew up with, I ended up starting to really like nice things, and I wanted, a custom made prom dress. But I was told my parents, like, if I wanted something fancy, I would pay for it. And that is how I was raised. So I started at Kumon, and then I went to Outback Steakhouse and kind of like led the reins at Outback from hostess to waitress to curbside.
You know what, that resonates so much. I feel like we're cut from similar cloths in that so in New Jersey, if you wanted to work, you had to go get working papers when you were 13. I remember on my 13th birthday, I'd already set up to get a job at a local bakery. It was so good, by the
Yeah.
way. Trost Bake Shop in Summit, New Jersey. And I got my working papers literally on my 13th birthday, and think I started working, a day or two later. Because similarly, I always wanted to have my own money. I wanted to be able to provide some things for myself that my parents couldn't, and just to take the pressure off them. So, how would you say that your definition of success has evolved over time?
So when I started, I think my career journey, I probably like most people, success was about title and where you're working, what you're doing, um, prestige, and having money. Like I definitely was not necessarily that I had a goal of how much I wanted to make, but more when I graduated from law school, I had law school debt. And so to me, I was like, well, my first thing is I need to pay off this debt. And so I think success always to me felt like having enough to take care of yourself. And it was always tied to money. I think especially in the beginning, it was, am I going to have enough to live the life I want? And I went to big law because it would help me pay off my loans. I went knowing that I wasn't going to stay in big law, but that it would give me kind of that cushion to start my life, pay off my loans, get my own apartment, and very quickly was making more than I could have imagined out of law school. And quickly realized that it was not, I was making six figures and very unhappy after
Mm.
the big law. And I would just sit in my car, pull up to work for 45 minutes or an hour. And I know some people have been there and just scroll or do anything but get out of the freaking car. And so I eventually just really tried to figure out like what my next move was, and that was, I think it's hard because making money, you realize, as everybody says, like, oh, it's not like that's when I was my most miserable when I had all this money. It's like, yes, but I also think that financial stability is such an important part of wellness as well and feeling well.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, we have bills to pay. If you went to law school or pursued a professional degree, or even from undergrad, people are graduating with six figures of debt, and it's hard to even imagine, like, how do you create an abundant life for yourself, one that you're feeling emotionally, spiritually, psychologically rich, when, you know, it's basically, I remember it was within a couple weeks of graduating law school, all of a sudden I had these massive bills to pay. Um, and, I think that we graduated law school around similar times coming out of the 2008 financial crisis. So I also just felt really lucky to even have a job, because there were a lot of lawyers, a lot of folks graduating who were brilliant people who had so much to offer, and just didn't have some of the same choices. But then it's interesting, right? So you start paying off the bills and you're chipping away at it over time, and that feels good. But realizing that the day to day of what you were doing actually didn't light you up, and that even as maybe you're starting to get a little bit more in your bank account and less going to the student loan companies, that the money's not going to keep you warm at night. For sure, right? We have to have a roof over our head. We have to have food in our bellies. There's people in our lives that we want to take care of. But it's like the money isn't going to answer all of the problems. And in fact, it often creates new ones for us. So we're both working at these elite institutions, and then decided to chart our own paths. I'd be curious for you, you talked a little bit about the scrolling on your phone and trying to avoid going into the office for as long as possible. Was there a pivotal moment where you decided that now's the time to go off and do something on your own, to do something entrepreneurial?
I think it was, I had just gotten engaged and there was so much happiness, and I still felt
Mm.
kind of this knot in my stomach of not doing the right thing. Meaning, like, I'm like, this just isn't for me. Like, I need to make a change. This isn't for me, which is funny because I'm still a lawyer. I'm still like doing the same thing, but I needed like an environmental change, a mindset change. I just needed to do it differently. And I remember I was home one night in my Brickell apartment and had like poured myself a big cold glass of Chardonnay, which I love. And I kind of like had a pep talk with myself. This is your one life. You're competent, you're smart. Like basically like a pep talk to yourself, and like told myself that night that I would start my own firm.
Hmm.
And I was just like very adamant of it. And then I ended up connecting with my friend Christina, who was at Wilson Sonsini. And we ended up having phone calls over a year's time, just talking to each other about going out on our own. And eventually that turned into J&O.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. So you talked about it for a year. When did you make the jump? I've done this a whole lot where I will create these elaborate plans to transform my life, to do something really different, and then I don't do it. It's scary,
Yeah.
right? To actually to pull the ripcord.
Well, I think, and the biggest thing is like, not everybody should quit their job, right? Like sometimes it's like, maybe it's not the job, maybe it's more the way you're living your life. Maybe you're just not taking care of yourself. Maybe you do need to change your mindset about certain things. So I think for a lot of people, it's not necessarily the job. Maybe it's the team you're working with.
Mhm.
Um, and so I think that is what takes the longest, is like what's really going to change my attitude and looking at that. But I knew I wanted to pay off my law school loans. I knew I had be prepared from going to six figures to making nothing. And, that was really scary after getting used to this like shiny life of a nice car, a Brickell high rise apartment, and, having free for all money to spend, to go to being like, okay, Rachel, like this is kind of it. And so I saved for a year to make sure that I had enough to not make any income.
Yeah. Yeah, you really had to what is it they say? Like tighten the belt,
And
go
like
into it.
in a good place, because I think it's when you're feeling so down or low or like purposeless, it's really hard to make the right decisions at that point. And so use where you are, use that paycheck, use that stable money to kind of like figure it out and be like, okay, like let me just still continue to go to work every day, have lunch with my coworkers if I can, like live my life while I figure this out. I think it's for me, I knew there were times that I wasn't in the right headspace to make a change.
Mm.
And
Mhm.
until I could financially, like having the loans from law school loom over me, I feel like mentally affected me. And I just knew I needed those paid off
Yeah.
before a move, and then getting more confident in myself and kind of like using that time of being employed to get in a good headspace and being like, okay, it's not doomsday every day. You're not going to be here forever. Just, use this as your launching pad. And I think that's a message to everybody wherever they're at now. Like, use it as a launching pad, use it to get stable, use it to get in a good headspace to take care of yourself. And this, I was not taking care of myself in big law. I meant more
Mm.
like, I wish I had all my Ahmi tools back then, but I just really took the time. It wasn't like I was up all night on a case in the morning. The next morning I came in and was like, I quit. It wasn't like that. It was very, thought of. But once I made the decision, I like kind of made a promise to myself, like you're going to do this for yourself, Rachel.
And I like that you're really highlighting the ways that, we have to cultivate the conditions that support us making a brave choice. So I think that sometimes when we think about entrepreneurship, we can think, all right, well, I just have to go jump right into it. But you really need to have a plan and you need to have stability so that you're not just, flailing around and then maybe make a choice that feels less courageous or that is smaller than what you set out to do just because you haven't supported yourself with the infrastructure that was necessary for that. So this is actually a really good segue too. So law firms, turns out, are not the best place to cultivate wellness. I don't know if there's any folks from big law firms on. I know some of our lawyer folks are there, and I know that law firms are actually trying to do more around this than
Few
maybe they did.
firms an amazing job. One of my old friends, McDermott Will and Emery, has a whole like McDermott Will program that they
Hmm.
do. So I think tides are really shifting. Being a lawyer is a very high stakes, stressful job, and it helps so much when you feel good and have energy. Like you do.
Absolutely. So, walk me back. So at this point, you now have started JNO Law. What inspired you to then go out and start Ahmi Health?
I was never intending to start another company. I was perfectly fine with J&O and building that and turning it into a legacy brand that can live on forever and provide livelihoods for so many people, even after my time on earth.
Mm.
But I have always been intrigued by like what people are doing to get healthy. I was always the first one to read like the Cosmo and the Goop articles on like what does she do? What does this person do? What are they eating? And this was 5 years ago, and there was so much being thrown at us. And I needed to get healthy after having my second little boy. And I had, 40 pounds to lose at the time. And there was nothing out there that spoke my language. There was Newman Weight Watchers. Weight Watchers now just filed for bankruptcy. So I don't know what the future of that is, but it didn't excite me. I wasn't like, all right, yes, I'm going to start this program on Monday. And so I ended up getting a group text of friends together and we committed for 3 months. And that's how Ahmi was born. And basically started out as a text group. I couldn't keep track of all the things. And so we came up with a simple mantra of greens, water, move, repeat. And I was like, I know we're all so busy and we're all trying to reach for the magic potion or this cleanse or like something that'll just like turn the corner for us. And I know deep down we're all not even freaking doing the basics. We're not like working out consistently every night, every week. We're not like making good home cooked meals, whether you pick up or not. We're ordering the quesadillas or the Chick-fil-A Uber Eats because it's convenient. I wanted a brand that like really I saw the need for a brand that really spoke my language when it came to getting healthy, that was simple, focused on the basics, and had accountability. And so from there, people wanted to join it. They were like, hey, how do I get in? When are you doing the next group?
Mm.
And it blossomed from there. And now we're on Substack.
And how did people find out about Ahmi?
So people naturally, when they start getting healthy, I think in our first like 3 month group, we all made significant changes. I think I had lost like 20 pounds. I was postpartum. So it was that postpartum weight, but people naturally ask, what are you doing? You look different. I can tell. And 5 years ago was before GLP-1s. People really were curious what we were doing. And, people do like talking about what they're doing. So I
Yeah.
think
Hmm.
people would naturally share like, oh, I'm actually part of like this text group or Ah.mi. And then I started an Instagram. People would follow and DM me. And so it was really organic through people talking to each other after they've started their journey of feeling good and wanting to share it with others.
What I really love about that again is I think that there's a lot of folks on Substack for many different reasons. It is so inspiring to hear about how, first of all, you started off by solving a problem for yourself, right? I'm 5 months postpartum, so I can definitely relate to that desire of wanting to get back to, I don't know if it's getting back to my old me, but getting back to feeling like a great version of myself. So you started by solving it for yourself, and then, but you brought others into it, and you were sharing, and you were creating community about it. And you didn't have this huge plan of, oh, I'm gonna create this massive community with eventually 2,000 people in it. It was just, all right, let's just start bringing folks along one by one. And just take it one step at a time as well. I know that I can start to get really overwhelmed thinking about, okay, well, do I need to have a business plan? And do I need to have a strategy? Should I have content pillars? Should I have this or that? And I just say to myself, like, slow your roll, calm down, figure out what lights you up, take it one step at a time, offer out there what you want to see in the world. And the people who resonate with that, like they'll show up to you when you are showing up um, to yourself authentically in that way. And I know that's something I want to touch on more in a bit.
Sometimes I'm like, what am I doing? Like building two companies. But I think that goes back to the purpose of, this chat is I really just love building both companies.
Hmm.
I think to have like stuff in your life that you really, really enjoy doing for the sake of joy is hard to find. And so I don't want to let go of it. I've thought about it, obviously, but I just keep doing it because I like it, like for the joy of liking it. And I have my law firm that I love too. And that provides me a really good living so that I can do things for the joy of doing that.
And imagine that, right? That just doing things for the joy of doing thing and to have that be enough. And we don't need to be great at it. We don't need to, have some other goal behind it. There's an article that came across my feed on Substack this morning about mom hobbies and how as mothers it's really important for us that it's not like, oh, I'm going to go take the kids to soccer and then I'm going to get my socialization talking to some of the other parents there. It's like, all right, I don't know, go pick up tennis, right? Like go running, go crocheting, go just do whatever the heck it is, do something for yourself. And I know that this is something that it's not just for moms, it's for all of us. We have such busy lives and it can be really, really hard to make space for the things that light us up. And then we look around and we're like, wait a second, our lives feel hollow. There isn't purpose. This doesn't feel authentic to me. Uh, and one of the things that really inspires me about you is the way that you're continuing to feed so many parts of yourself. We can often feel like career, it's coming at the expense of our wellness. That was my experience. That's been a big part of my journey. And then I also felt like I had to hide parts of myself, like meditation and spirituality, things that were not typical in the law, stuff that made me seem like a bit like an oddball in the law and startup environments. And here you are confidently integrating both. So, can you talk a little bit about your experience of showing up more authentically as your true self, as your fullest self, uh, as a lawyer, as a mom, and as
Well,
an entrepreneur?
I think those who know that like every lawyer should be doing meditation. Gosh, more than any profession in the world. Like how amazing would it be if every lawyer meditated? And I haven't had a super strict meditation practice. Right now I'm doing Sam Harris's Waking Up 30-day intro to get back into it. I'm on day 16. So
Oh,
I've
good job.
I know, I'm like trying. I've really tried to get meditation in my life. I do it in the morning. And it's just that quiet time. And so I think meditation and exercise are such powerful tools for professionals and conversations like that. This normalize it that you don't have to be a guru and who knows to sit at your desk and maybe at lunchtime do a 10-minute meditation before your day of conference calls. Have a mat and do Melissa Wood in your office. I was doing that when I was doing the at-home workouts, and I think normalizing it and having people see their coworkers and bosses especially doing um you know, things that help their mental and physical is only going to improve every single profession. We can't just work, 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 work and not take care of ourselves. Or as we find, people crash and burn. And I don't want to live like that. I don't want anybody that works with me to live like that. I truly get happy when I hear people are doing one of our calls on a walk and talk, or they're, going to be out for, the morning because they're going to be back from the gym. They'll do. all from the gym. I don't know. I don't care. Like, I'm happier to hear that they are taking care of themselves than like we all get in the cycle of not even getting up from our desk and having lunch or, you know,
Yeah.
water. I think that was my life in big law. I would be just so tethered to my desk that I was not drinking water and I was not moving my body.
Yeah. So even though you had this mantra, right, of the greens, water, move, repeat. I probably got the order. Yes, they're such simple things, but they are so easy to ignore. So I love how you simplify it for folks. Like that's something that I want to keep. I definitely need to eat more greens. I definitely need to drink my water and
If
move around
I rebrand greens, water, move, repeat, and sleep, or sleep and repeat.
and sleep. Yes.
So important too. But yeah, I think like going back to the truest self, it's talking about it. I think when I started on me, I was a little embarrassed or, what is this other thing I'm doing? I'm not a health and wellness person. I'm not an influencer. And there was some type of like deep down embarrassment of
Hmm.
starting and leaning into me and this way of living and kind of like changing to be healthier. And then once I built up confidence, I think over the years, I've just embraced it. And I love Ami. I love our mission. I love what we're spreading. I think it is just so important for people to feel like they can do both and have a profession and live a really healthy life and prioritize things that feel good to them.
Yeah. And I love that, you're talking about really like stepping in to the fullest and most well versions of ourselves because you're right. So many of us think that one has to come at the expense of the other. And I would just be curious, I'm personally curious. Like I was saying, I just had my second. It is a whole thing. I think my friends and I joke, like, yes, we did welcome these little angels into our lives, but these angels also happen to be complete tornadoes, right?
Yep.
And like they're not even tornadoes that are spinning the same way, like one's over here, one's over there. It is a whole lot. You recently opened up about your postpartum journey after you welcomed your third and some of the challenges that you faced. I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah, after you said a tornado, I talk about after my third, I felt like my life was a hurricane. And I fully wanted
From
to.
Florida, that
And I wanted 3 my whole life. I've always wanted 3. I wanted a big family, but it really threw me, like, from my labor. I started in ICU. It was a very, like, scary experience. And then after my 3rd, I went back to work, and I ended up getting very, very bad postpartum depression to where
Mm.
I could not get out of bed. Everybody was very worried at me. I hated everything. Like, I hated work. I hated decorating the house for the holidays, having parties. Like, everything I loved to do was not what I wanted to do anymore. And it was really scary to go from being, you know, high functioning and, always gearing up and getting ready and doing the things I love to not wanting to do anything. And I ended up getting help. I went to my therapist, I went to a psychiatrist, I ended up going on medicine. I went on Prozac and Wellbutrin. And it helped so much. And I talk about it and I put it out in a Substack because I think there is still, even though we've gotten so much better with talking about it, this stigma and shame. And it's just like GLP-1s. And it's like once people start accepting it and talking about it and seeing other people that are doing it, it really helps. Like, I wanted to hear from other people. I remember I'd like Google people and like this person, postpartum depression. I just wanted to know like who else dealt with it because it was really scary. And just going to my tools, did, use medication and then trying to figure out what could make me happy. And it ended up just being, it was really bad depression and it took a while to get through.
And I really appreciate you opening up about that because, yeah, everyone's around you and they're like, aren't you so happy? Isn't this so precious? Isn't it? Oh, you're tired. You're just tired, right? And minimizing the experience that new parents, that new mothers are going through. You had all these hormones roaring through your body for 9 months, and then they all sort of just like go kaput at the same time. You're figuring out new patterns for your family. It's just a whole lot. So I appreciate your bravery in one, naming it, owning it, being public about it. Two, talking about the role of medication, because especially in some wellness circles and communities these days, there's a lot of stigma around medication. So people say, oh, go get help, and I'm obviously a meditation person. I'm like, oh, meditate and create spaciousness. But I'm also someone who I suffered from depression when I was in my 20s. And I was I had a lot of suicidal ideation. I felt like my brain was broken. All the tools that I had used in the past to try to keep myself feeling okay were not working. And I remember getting to the point where I just said, I need to get on medication. Like something is not working and I need help getting out of here because I don't know how I'm going to be able to get out of here on my own. So I think that it's just really important to say, like, yes, there is role for meditation, there is role for medication, there is role for therapy. uh there's no shame in doing any and all of those things, or whatever else it is that you find helps you return to, that joyful version of yourself, and that version that we all deserve to
Yes, I think feeling good is everything. I always say it seeps into all parts of your life. When you feel good and are taking care of yourself, work instantly gets better. Like it just does. You're a happier person, you're more energized, your relationships get better, your parenting gets better. When you don't feel great and when you feel like you aren't taking care of yourself, it's like a house, like all the foundation breaks down. And it's really hard to feel good when you're putting yourself on the back burner. And I think
Mhm.
that's a lot of us do. And weeks where I still do it too because we're busy and we have work stuff and this and kids stuff. And I think it's just a reminder. And Ami has helped me. Like selfishly, I have Ami to help me too. Like I want to join these groups. I want to feel good. And I need that reminder a lot.
Yeah, we all really do. That's why that that mantra
Yeah.
is so helpful. You're like, wait, I'm feeling awful. What do I do? Oh, am I dehydrated? Have I eaten healthy? Have I
Yeah.
made good choices for my body? Have I
Yes.
moved? Did I get outside? Right. And then I love adding sleep into, and maybe it's also, postpartum. I'm like, I'm so tired. My daughter is still waking
Right.
up
It's really hard
twice
to
a
add
night.
a mantra till like maybe after a year postpartum.
Yeah, first year survive.
And it's been 2 years since Isla was born, my littlest. And so that's 2 years of just the slow roll of just, going up that mountain, getting back to the basics of greens, water, move, repeat. I still am just a big walker. Like that is what I try and walk throughout the day. When I was at Big Law, I never walked, and just walking constantly throughout the day, whether it's to get my like afternoon coffee, might not be doing the healthiest stuff when I'm walking, but I just try and constantly move my body. So strength training and walking is my thing. And like I just try and do that now. And I'm always changing what my thing is too.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. And whenever I find that I'm spiraling, I'm like, okay, Allie, chill out, throw in the stroller, and just like start moving. And it's amazing just how quickly that can shift things for me. I'm like, oh, there's a whole world out there. Like, yes, my life is small now, but there is a big world, and at some point I will return to that place. So I wanted to jump into just some rapid reflections and to start get to some closing thoughts too. What's one belief that you've let go of that once felt essential?
I think a lot of us, like, we mold ourselves into a box and we can only be this. And for so long, that was me. I was the big law lawyer. I was just that. And I think you can relate to that, like being in house at big tech companies, like you just get, I don't think like deranged is the right word, but that you're like put into a box and that's it. And I think a lot of people that have maybe had the same job, I've been a lawyer for 15 years, have maybe felt that like this is what I am and that's it. And that's totally false. You can be multiple things. You don't have to start multiple businesses. You do not have to do any of that, but you can live life as like your truest self. And that doesn't have to mean that your profession has to be all encompassing. It can be part of you and a really big part of you, but you can be more. And now when I think people see me, I'm am a lawyer, but that's just one part of me. And it's just one part of my story. It's just one part of my journey. I'm a founder. I'm a mom. I'm an advocate for other women. I'm a cheerleader. I think once I acknowledged that, I just became a much happier person. And that comes to living your truest self. And I think you can feel that from others too. I always say that. I'm like, the people that are putting each other down or saying, like, knocking on other people, it's because they're not living their truest self. And
Mhm.
if they're not happy where they are, you, once you like find your happiness and your North Star, you're so want other people to find that. And you want to encourage other people to find that. And that's truly how I feel. And that's, you know, you can tell when you're with people, those people that want, that truly do want other people to find their North Star and be their truest selves.
Yeah. No, you feel it immediately, right? You feel when there's people who, are silently judging you, or people who are envious. And then you can feel the folks who are just so happy for you, or even the folks who can see in you a future that you can't necessarily see for yourself, but who, like you, are encouraging people to step into these really full, abundant versions because you know that it is possible, right? So you want that for as many people as possible.
Yeah, I was.
Um,
That brings me up. My mom might be watching this. She said she was gonna
Hi,
talk.
mom.
When I was going through like the highs and lows of entrepreneurship, I was just like, what am I doing with me? Like, I'm just gonna get rid of it. I'm gonna like, who knows? Like, I went through periods of like maybe gonna like pass the baton and sell it to somebody else or just shut it down. I really didn't know. And I remember I told my mom this one day, and she's like, "What? But Rachel, you love me."
Hmm.
Like, and I feel like that stuck with me. Like, you can just have something in your life because you genuinely love it. We try and check all the boxes when like the pure love of doing something or joy. Like, why can't that be the North Star and the most important thing?
Yeah, and I think that this is especially true for high achievers. We think that we have to be serious people and be serious about our careers and really be committed to them. But often that vision of commitment can look like a narrowing. And then it makes us these one note people who aren't really happy, like, yes, I'm so serious and I'm working all the time and I made partner, or, I have this huge business and it's growing and that's great, but they're not lit up anymore because they haven't made space for all of those other things that really make their hearts sing. For folks out there who are feeling a pull towards making a change in their lives, but they're not sure what the path looks like, what advice would you give them?
I think the biggest thing is to sit with yourself and really say, like, this is my life. there's not going to be anybody out there that is going to tell me what to do, right? Like parents, friends, significant others, they will support you, they will give you words of encouragement, tell you you can do it, but like you're the one who has to do it. And it's up to you. Nobody is going to be like, go start that thing, go do that thing, go quit your job. And they shouldn't, because it's not their life. Like it's your life. So really think and sit hard and don't rush. What does the next thing look like? Or why am I not feeling fulfilled right now? Why? Is it the people I'm surrounding myself with? Am I surrounding myself with all these people who, have all these limiting beliefs and aren't, you know, believing in me and aren't believing in themselves? Because those are the people that drag you down, the people that don't believe in themselves. So I think you have to sit with yourself and kind of like take inventory on what is it, because a lot of times it's not the job. It's like the job is fine. You work with a great team. You have supporting coworkers. You're doing good, challenging work. So don't think that the life overhaul has to be quitting the job or, you know, ending something in a drastic way. I think about really specifically your day to day and what's going to light you up and what's going to bring you that feeling of purpose that we all like so badly crave and love and want when we get into that like flow.
Yeah. To your point, maybe the job is totally fine. Or, maybe it's not the moment to leave my job or to make a big change. Maybe, other circumstances in my life don't support it, but let me look at my relationships. Let me look at creativity. Let me look at spirituality. There's so many other dimensions of our lives. And maybe if we've been neglecting those things, the magnetic pull of those things wanting to take up more space in our lives is actually what's causing the unhappiness, not the job.
Totally. And once, if you don't know and you're like, I'm just a freaking chaotic mess right now. I don't know what my life's going to be. I don't know what I should do for work. I don't know. Like, if you're in that stage of like, I just don't know, this sucks. And I think the first step is taking care of yourself and getting back to that's why me, like, I always go back, even me, when I have rough weeks or rough anything, I'm just go back to taking care of yourself, eating healthy food, exercising. Once you start feeling good, life pulls its shit together. Like it really does. And they say that. That's why, like, most successful people, Bob Iger, who runs Disney, and all these people, they prioritize taking care of themselves so much because it is so important for their success. And so if life is a shit show right now, then just one step at a time, greens, water, move, repeat, try and do the basics. You don't have to biohack it. You don't have to do some $1,000 potion that's out there. Just take inventory. You're even taking care of yourself on like the basic level. So somebody, another Substack, Let's Feel Good. Annie, I just read one of her Substacks that was amazing. And she was like, build the foundation and then you can go ahead and build the house. That's so true. It's like build your foundation and start feeling good in your own skin, in your body, and then you can do anything. Like you really can. Feeling good is the key. A life that feels good, that doesn't just look good to the outside, but actually feels good from the inside.
Mhm. I think that that's the perfect note to end on. Rachel, thank you so much. If people want to find you, where's the best place to look?
Yes, on Substack, connect with me on Substack. Our Me Substack is ahmi.health. And then you can also find us on Instagram at ahmi.health.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, everyone follow along. Ami has these really cool challenges. I know that sometimes for me, behavior change can feel a little bit overwhelming. I'm like, oh no, well, I need to, be cutting down on my sugar, and then I need to be meditating, and then I need to do 5,000 things. What I love is that you guys make it so achievable and accessible, and we do it together, which I think is fantastic. We always need the support.
If I'm not accountable to anybody, it's done.
Yeah, exactly. If no one's looking, it ain't
Yeah.
happening. All right. Well, thank you everyone who was able to join. And thank you again, Rachel. Thanks so much for listening to Practically on Purpose with Allie Canton. If something in today's conversation stirred something in you, it made you pause, reflect, or even exhale, consider sharing it with a friend. That's how this community grows, through one honest, meaningful exchange at a time. If you're enjoying the show, the best way to support it is to subscribe, leave a review, or forward it to someone else who might need it. You can also follow along or reach out anytime at alliecanton.substack.com. I read every note, and it means so much more than you know. Special thanks to Mutual Benefit for the beautiful music that brings us in and out each week. You can find more of their work wherever you listen to music. And until next time, stay curious, stay grounded, and stop living someone else's success story and step into your own.